Yeah. So we talked a bit earlier. We talked a bit about guys coming forward. You said there's still that reluctance, and I've seen it as well. But the point you brought up was really good. Like partners of the guys that are struggling coming forward or suggesting to them, like, that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
You know, because my wife at the time could see I was ignoring my wake up calls. You know, she could see the change in me, and I didn't see it because I was so stuck in my own thing. So that's an important thing, I think, for anyone listening. If the guys are reluctant to come forward, just to really, because what I found is once you take away one brick, they open up. Like they have.
There's a hole in the wall.
Which
is a good thing.
Exactly. It's not a weakness. It's a strength, really.
Stepping forward is a strength.
Yeah.
And this is what still a fair few men around still see it as a weakness.
Yeah.
Or it's just too hard, or the judgment, or the more we think about what people think about us.
Well, the guys that I've spoken to have said, okay, I don't see it as a weakness, but if I go and open up to my partner or whatever, they'll see me as weak.
Yeah.
So that's their perception.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to speak to random girls on these street talks, and they'll say, "No, we like men because that's a show of strength." Then I go back to the guys and say, "Okay, this is the female perspective," and then they'll turn around and say, "Oh, no, that's what they say," but in reality, they want us to be, the strong, stoic kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they want a strength in a certain degree because going back to sort of more ancient times, you wanted a provider, right? The hunter that would go out and...
That's just in our DNA, really.
Go and kill an animal, bring it back so that you could... it goes back to our core DNA.
It does.
So, it's interesting you say that because, they want a provider, but they also want someone they can connect with.
Yeah.
If they can't connect with you, it's like talking to a lemon.
Correct.
Not to say anyone's a lemon on here, but
like
it's like the personality of a lemon because they're just talking to them and it's like they're not getting anything back.
Yeah.
Like no actual connection, no emotion. And look, it's still, I'm still growing with my wife and how we communicate. And sometimes we still have our bits and pieces that pop up, but then I step back and I think about it and go, like, there's been a few times in the last few months where I've actually apologised for things. And I never used to apologise.
Didn't you? Yeah.
No, because my ego was like, no, I'm better than everyone else. And I thought that I had to be, if I apologised, that showed that I was wrong. I could never be wrong. I'm quite happy to be wrong now. If someone wants to call me out on something, go for it. If that is true and correct, then cool, I'll accept that. But I couldn't do that before.
Yeah. See, with me, when I was going through my trauma, my response was the fawn response because I just didn't want. I had so much internal conflict. I just wanted to avoid any other.
Yeah.
So I just
didn't want the conflict.
I didn't want the conflict.
So we people please, and we yes, no, like just you comply essentially.
Yeah.
So whatever's up. So then, and that's when personal boundaries are either not there or they're broken all the time.
Correct. Yeah. And then with that, because you're just submitting to complying, like you said, to everyone, like. And that erodes your self-confidence even more, your sense of self-worth, because now you're just like a puppet, basically.
Yep.
So, there's a lot of empowerment to healing, honestly. The guy I look back on now that went through what he did is a complete stranger to me, And that's what we do, because we don't want people being in that space, because we know what a horrible environment, what a horrible place it is to be.
It's hard to watch people go through that stuff, and even like myself trying to help different people, and you can do so much, but if they're not willing to do anything about it, that's as far as it goes.
It's as far as it goes.
Yeah, it doesn't go any further.
No,
they have to decide that I wanna do this, and it might be hard, but it'll be absolutely worth it.
Yeah, so that acceptance, I think, the awareness that you are struggling.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one step, but then that accepting that you need help and that awareness and acknowledgement, that's good. I mean, even that is sometimes a hard point to get to.
Yeah.
But then once you're at that point, you've got to accept, okay, I can't just stay where I am. I've got to move forward.
And sometimes you might, it's kind of that thing like, you might fall over every now and again.
And you will.
Maybe just think about it in a way of, I'm falling over, but I'm falling forwards.
Exactly, and you will fall over, and that's how you build. That's where resilience come in, and once you build that resilience, it's a tool that never goes away. And I think I've told you this story before, where I just recovered from. I mean, it's always a learning. We're always on a learning journey, but when I became functional again, and everything started making sense in the world again, I was diagnosed with cortical equina syndrome, which is a neural condition, that affects my lower extremities.
Yep.
And that was a life-changing diagnosis because the initial prognosis was that it's going to be permanent, and initially they said, okay, you might be in a wheelchair.
Yeah, that would have been tough.
And it was tough, and I did regress into that victim mentality, that victim mindset for a little while, just to absorb it, and all the why me's and that crept up, and then but the resilience that I built up during my PTSD recovery kicked in, and the mindset shift, so I had those tools at my disposal, and those are things that you just keep building on. You just keep building, and you get stronger and stronger. Yeah.
And this is almost a bit of a segue into self-talk.
Yeah.
The way we talk to ourselves.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
It's probably a whole subject. So I don't know. Let's play in it.
Let's play in it.
Let's play in it. Why not? Let's jump into the field. So that self-talk, that inner dialogue, that little voice, that devil on the shoulder, whatever anyone wants to call it, right? That thing that's saying, "Why me?" or "I'm not good enough," or "I'll never be able to do it. I'll never be successful." All these negative words, vibrations. I think the way that we're talking to ourselves, we can actually stop it, but we're not taught how to do that. So I don't know, did you find a tool for yourself to be able to start to change that mindset? Was that part of the EMDR, or was that more so acknowledging the thoughts and going, I don't have to accept that? Or what was it for you? I'll share mine in a minute, but I'm
it wasn't so much
yours.
the EMDR.
Yeah.
Do you know what? For me, it was a feeling, like that negative emotion. As soon as I realised that thought was triggering that negative emotion, that's when I caught it. As soon as I felt it in my stomach, I'm like, that's when, that's when you're going to, that's when I stopped, assess, let me analyse this,
And that could have gone any number of ways. So you felt a feeling in a body. Once again, we're back to the body.
Yeah.
You felt a feeling. You acknowledged it in a different way and said, no, I don't want to feel that, and I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
The other way that you might have done before is that's when we went into the negative vices.
Yeah.
Got a feeling, no, I want to avoid that. Drugs, alcohol, retail therapy, gaming, gambling, whatever.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's the left or the right.
Yeah.
In the fork of the road.
I mean, you talked about thought loops, the loops before.
Yeah.
We hadn't gone into that, but before I would just let that loop run.
Yeah.
That thought triggers the emotion triggers another thought, it's negative, and then you go out in the world, you just find negative stuff.
Yes.
You just track negativity.
Yeah. Right. So you're looking through the negative lenses.
Yeah.
So what do you see? That's all you see.
That's all you see.
There's good things happening.
Yeah.
But you're not really acknowledging them.
Exactly.
And that's 100% where I was as well. So you just, I saw a little, it was actually a picture. I think it was on Insta or Facebook, whatever. It's an image of a bus, and it's on a coastal road, right? And you imagine a coastal road, there's a cliff off the side.
Yeah.
The bus is traveling along. There's a person in the left-hand side of the bus, and there's a person on the right-hand side of the bus.
Yeah.
Now, next to the cliff, the cliff climbs even further. So you've got the road, and so the person on one side of the bus is looking in at a dark, gloomy wall. You know, there might be caves, might be dark, might be wet. It doesn't look very nice. Everything's a bit dark. The person on the other side of the bus is looking out onto that nice sunset and the ocean and the birds, and it all looks amazing. They're on the same freaking bus. Yeah. They're on the same path, essentially. Yeah. They just have to swap their perceptions, swap seats. And everything changes. Yeah. So that was a powerful image that I'd seen. I was like, wow, I hadn't really looked at it that way. And then back into that self-talk and how we see the world. The gratitude's another piece that helped get.
Oh, absolutely.
That's another piece. That's a powerful tool. But that self-talk, there's a couple of different ways of how to start to change that. So my initial one was what I like to call, and what I heard about was snap band therapy. Essentially, it's about wearing some rubber bands or something, some sort of something around your wrist that you can attach a physical feeling, not a pain. We don't want to activate pain receptor, right? Yep. And so whenever the negative thought comes up, you basically just say stop, snap the bands, and then replace it with a positive emotion or an empowering thought. But then try and think about a time when you felt empowered or happy or good.
Yeah.
And maybe someone's never experienced that, so that can be a little bit hard, but you can train the brain to feel good. Think about just something that made you feel good. Walking the dog, going to the beach, playing with your kids, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So replace the thought and then let it go.
Yeah.
Now, when I first started doing this, I reckon I must have been snapping these rubber bands 4,655 times a day. But over time, it got less and less and less to the point that I didn't need to snap the bands anymore. And that was just like, wow.
Yeah.
We can change our mindsets.
Absolutely.
We can rewire everything. We can upgrade, as we've spoken about before. So that's one piece of it. Because I like to think about it like this. It's like a negative thought. It comes through the ear. I think of the ear as a doorway. Think of it as like the front door on your house. So here comes a negative thought walking up to the door. Knock, knock, knock. When the mind answers it, our mind, our self, we open the door and we go, oh, do you want to come in? Yeah, come on in. All right. So the negative thought sits down and then you start feeding it. You start give it some cookies. Would you like some tea? Would you like some coffee? You start to invite it, create an environment where the negative thought thinks, yeah, I'm going to hang around here. I'm going to stay here. This is good. This is where I want to be. And I'll just embed and invade this mind, this space. But when the negative thought comes to the mind next time, or any thought comes up and it comes knocking on the door, just say stop. We don't have to accept that. Don't acknowledge it. Don't validate it.
Absolutely.
Say stop. Say no.
Yeah.
And replace it with something positive, and you'll start to embed more positive thoughts.
Yeah.
That's when the gratitude comes in.
Yeah.
So what I would then do is add gratitude on the end of it. Just three small things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
Could be as simple as, like for today, it's like the opportunity to do this podcast with you, Sean. You know, that's something to be grateful for. Grateful for the boots on my feet, otherwise I'd be walking around with no shoes on. Grateful for the car that got me here. Grateful for the sun, for that gives life. Grateful for the air we breathe. Like the pen that I use to write things down, otherwise I wouldn't be able to write it down. They're simple little things. But by doing that, you then start to shift the perspective and the lenses to go, I'm going to start looking for all the good things in life.
Yeah.
And then what starts showing up? More good things.
They just find their way to
They
you.
just find your way to you.
Yeah,
And
they really do. So
it's almost unexplainable, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It really is. You know, I mean, my gratitude starts when I open my eyes, you know.
Yeah, beautiful.
We've both lost people, you know, friends and, you know, I've lost family, I've lost siblings, and like, geez, I got to open my eyes this morning, you know.
Yeah. How grateful you are to just to wake up, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And it's another day. And just even if yesterday wasn't a great day, I'm not saying it was for you or for I, but even for the listeners here right now, if yesterday wasn't a great day, well, so be it. But that was yesterday.
That was yesterday, yeah.
The sun will rise again.
Yeah.
That is one thing that we can guarantee. It's going to rise again, so let's have another go at it.
Yep.
Let's change it. And this is where those thoughts, because 90% of our thoughts are the thoughts from the day before.
Yes.
So that's why it takes time to change it from a negative mindset or a positive mindset or from a fixed to a growth.
Yeah, and Joe Dispenza, he talks a lot about that, how,
Yes.
you know, that our past, we just let those experiences just kind of dictate the way we live day to day, because we just let those intrusive thoughts from the past do their thing, you know. And it's so easy once you get into that habit of shifting those thoughts, it becomes easier and easier and easier.
Yeah. And now we can go into that intrusive thoughts and trauma looping, right? So this is a good little segue. So before you said about a feeling in a body. So what breathwork does, especially conscious connected breathing, the trauma releasing style, is it interrupts that pattern. So what we do is, and I'd love to be able to draw an image for the listeners, but I'll have to try and draw an image in your mind, is a set event happened at some point in your life, or several events stacked on top of each other. Might have been age 5, 12, 27, whatever it is. There's events, there's traumas, there's experiences that have happened to you. And what happens is we come down the path later in life, and here's the present you. And whenever we think about said events or traumas, which we generally think about when we're alone, when we're generally safe and there's no distractions. And when I mean safe, no physical threats. Back when I think about it, you think about a time when everything goes quiet, there's nothing around you, and then you start to get a feeling or the thought of the events. They start to come into the awareness. Yeah. That creates the feeling in the body. Yeah. And this is where you go left or right on that fork. Yep. Are you going to go and be aware of it and be like, oh shit, I can make some changes here. I don't have to accept that. Or are you going to turn to devices? So for a lot of us, we turn to, like we've been mentioning, the drugs, the alcohol, the sex, the gambling, the gaming, the overworking, underworking, oversleeping, undersleeping, porn. So that all these different types of vices, we turn to those because they're distractions.
Yeah.
So we get to distract ourselves and then the feeling goes away. That's where breathwork comes in, because we interrupt the feeling. We start to cancel it out, because then the event does come up, but we get to process it. Once those events have been processed and we've gone through them and healed from them, essentially, we haven't forgotten, but we begin to heal from them, well then the feeling in the body no longer needs to come up. So then the vices start to go away, because you're dealing with your shit.
And that's, I mean, for everyone listening or watching, it's not as daunting a task as it seems. Like, I mean, obviously you'll be guided through this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very very important
you guys.
To be guided.
Yeah. So, but that's brilliant, because I mean, so many people are just numb, unconscious, and they just drift. Drift with their stuff.
Feel like they're stuck in a rut. Or
and
don't know their purpose, or have all this pain that's holding them back.
Yeah, so people just drift from day to day.
And that's the beauty of breathwork as well, because what will happen in your mind, it doesn't even have to be with people with trauma. Maybe you just don't have direction. Maybe you're a bit lost, unsure of your purpose, where you're going, what you're capable of, limiting beliefs, negative self-talk. Going through the breathwork allows you to step into it's an altered state of consciousness. Essentially. So I like to see breathwork as the closest thing to psychedelic experiences. And I don't know if you know, Australia is the first country in the world to legalise that for medicinal purposes in the right setting. I don't endorse the use for anything outside of that, obviously. But the research is showing, especially coming from America and whatever, it's very powerful for post-traumatic stress disorder and depression.
So, so in
the right setting, as we said.
Exactly right. So the PTSD group that I'm on a couple on Facebook, and the guys that have gone through it, all good reports. You know, like after their second or third sessions on these things. So and it's some people can be healed for 6 months. Some people can be healed for life. Because same as what breathwork does, we're just allowing the ego to start to drop. We're starting to break it down. That's why I love breathwork, because I can work with so many people that are willing to at least have a go with it. And watching clients come out the other side, and like it's a weird thing well, it's not a weird thing, but for us to celebrate, we love to see people cry, and move the emotion, and be vulnerable, and share, and be open. And like we do one-on-ones. That's a good thing.
That's exactly.
Powerful. It really is.
It is. And some people aren't prepared to do it in a group setting yet. So we do group settings of no more than 10 people and at least 2 facilitators, because it's important to create the safety. There's a lot of different breathworks out there. I'm not keen on the ones that have got like 50 people breathing and 2 facilitators, because they can't really give the attention to the whole space. So that nothing against those guys. It just scares me a little bit, because I've had clients come to me that have been to some places where they haven't had that support. They haven't had that level of someone being there able to at least guide them through it until they're ready to really emotionally process things on themselves. Because the idea is to get the clients or the people that we work with, because it's collaboration, is to get them to a point where they can emotionally regulate themselves. We don't want to hold space for them all the time, but we do need to do that to start with, to allow the emotions to start to come up and release. Then after a time, we get to a point where they don't even need to come to breathwork. Some people it's like 5 sessions, some people it's 15 sessions, wherever they get their big breakthrough, and then essentially once they've done that, then it's just maintenance breathing. You know, some people come back every couple of months. Some people you might not see them for a year or 2. They might let things build up again and all the life happens, and then they're like, I need to go do some breathing. It's a weird thing. I need to go. We're all breathing every day, right? But it's a very
just shallow breathing.
Very shallow.
Exactly. So I mean, before we started, we talked about a session that's happening next week on the 19th.
International Men's Day.
Yes. 19th. So that's going to be at Scarborough Beach. So all you Perth-based guys and girls.
Just guys.
Just guys for this one.
Men's talk. That's not to say that we don't want women in the spaces. Because most of my clients in the breathwork space are actually women, because they're more open to the idea. Males, we're still trying to get guys in. But the guys that are coming through, phenomenal results. Absolutely amazing watching them change. It's pretty cool to watch someone going through that process from start to finish. someone, let's say a guy coming into the room and he's a bit quiet and reserved, or not really spruced up as such. That might be just who he is, but it might also be because he's holding so much pain.
Yeah.
And then to see them say after doing 10 weeks of breath work, I don't recommend much more than twice a week. Once a week's good. Twice a week you're starting to push it, because when we move, it can be emotionally draining.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want someone to come and, let's do 3 breathwork sessions. No, that's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of processing going on. Your mind's going through some rewiring. Neuroplasticity changes.
Absolutely.
Everything's happening. So we can't, if you push the mind too much, it might especially in the emotional field, might start to melt down or not really know how to process things. So twice a week tops, but I generally recommend people once a week. But I work with FIFO people too, right? So they some of them are doing 8 and 6, so they might come and do 2 sessions on their week off, go to work for a week, and then come back and do another 2 sessions. So start of their break and then the end of their break. So there's at least 3 days in between is what I like to see. Because it takes about 3 days to just settle in, because emotions can still be a little bit raw. But it's important as breathwork facilitators. This is why it's important for the ratio running like at least one practitioner to 5 breathers is to close it up at the end of the session.
Yes.
So we go through a process called AIR. We go through. It goes for about an hour essentially. So we go through activation, which is when we start to really amplify the breathing. We're getting into it. Then we're going through integration. We start to keep the breath connected, but it's just a more mild breath. And then finally relaxation. And that's just inviting a normal everyday breath. Eyes are still closed down. There's music playing in the background. And you just start to relax the autonomic nervous system again. Because we don't want to go out in the world and be like open and revved up to everything, because if things are still a bit raw. But emotions can still come up. Might be some good things, bad things. Things might be a bit heavy. You might go out really light. The thing is with breathwork sessions is no session's the same. That's what I like about it.
Yeah.
People explain their session and what happened for them, and none of them are ever the same. Even for the same person, you can go 10 times, and it's a different session every time because you're processing something different.
Of course, yeah. So EMDR is very similar in that emotions that you got to deal with afterwards. So I could only manage one a fortnight, one session a fortnight, because it took me that long to process.
That was your window of tolerance.
That was my absolutely. That window actually got smaller and smaller as that I could do once a week, and then in the end I was doing twice a week. So the window got smaller and smaller, more tolerant. But initially, that's all I could handle. So, all right. So, I mean, as you guys can tell, Josh is clearly a good-looking rooster. And you can tell he's sporting...
Couple of good roosters in the booth.
He's sporting an outstanding Mo. So this is... so November is Movember.
Yeah.
And Josh is on board with that. So I urge you guys to please get behind him with fundraising. So your target... I think you said it was about $1,200. So
about $1,250.
$1,250.
Actually, it might be lower this year. That's what I raised last year. It was about $1,250. So, anyone that wants to jump on, 100%. I did a bit of a reverse mo this year, so I had a full beard, right? And then last week I chopped it into a goatee.
Lovely.
This week is into a set of big. It almost looks like a walrus teeth coming down.
So I'm waiting for the chopper read.
So
or the Merv views.
This is gonna come off the end next. And then finally we'll probably end up with a caterpillar on the top left.
Lovely. Good. So get behind Josh, guys.
Movember, men's health, women's health, everyone's health, but Movember's especially about this time of year. And did you know it was actually founded by 2 blokes in a pub?
No.
In Melbourne? Yeah, unreal. It's who was it?
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, Luke and Travis, I believe. Luke and Travis. Yeah, 2 guys, 2003.
Yeah,
they just came up with the idea of around the pub having a couple of beers, like, how can we raise some awareness around men's health? And they came up with the mo and they brought the mo back. And I was lucky enough, I actually met Mitchell Johnson, famous cricketer, last week.
In Newman?
Up north. And he had a really powerful story about, he's sharing his story about things that have happened for him in depression and pieces through his career. So it just shows that it can happen to anyone, right?
It really can. Yeah. The men's workshop I attended with the Happiness Co. They had Ashton Agar.
Yep.
And he was brilliant in talking about his struggles and being a professional sportsman as well. It was fantastic. So you're right.
Yeah, it's good seeing these professionals in there, because mental health and the illnesses or struggles that happen around that, it doesn't care what colour you are, it doesn't care how old you are, what house you live in, what job you have, it doesn't care about any of that. Your gender, it can get anyone. So,
can get
that's
anyone.
why we want to keep opening these conversations up.
Correct. Yeah, I've noticed the AFL, they're coming on board really well with looking after their guys as well, and the players are so much more open about talking about, you know, their mental health struggles, where they actually take time out of the game just to
get away from that environment.
Yeah, that's right. So let's just encourage it. And
yeah, absolutely.
Great. But so next week, I'm looking forward to that. It'll be a great little session. Not little, but it's going to be awesome. Yeah,
we'll both be there. So.
We'll both be there. So join us, guys. So I have been looking forward to chatting to you.
Yeah, I really appreciate being here. Yeah.
No, thanks very much, man, and thanks for sharing your experiences as well. It's you've got a huge story.
We didn't go too much into it. When it can get pretty dark and deep.
Yeah.
But I'm more than open to sharing them. But I think for this episode, we didn't want it to be just about my story, your story. We actually wanted to give the listeners more value as well.
More value, which I'm sure they got.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to put, you guys have been listening, I'm going to put Josh's link down the bottom. Hit him up at Levelhead. Come and do some breath work with him.
Let's change your life, because
absolutely.
If you change something, something will change. And by stepping into a space that you haven't been into and that is proven to work, I don't like to put guarantees on things, but it's pretty close to guaranteeing that you're going to make some effective changes that will essentially make you into a better person, a better version of yourself. And if you're just becoming 1% better each day, at the end of 1 year, you're 365% better, right? So let's bring us some attention to it. Let's do the work and get the fucking results.
That's it.
Yeah, brother.
I appreciate you, bro.
Boom. Okay. Thanks for having me.